always an ebb and flow, and there's always teams looking to upgrade. It seems like there's about 5 to 10 teams every year that wish they had a better quarterback. And the Vikings, you could have that weird conversation of like, well, what do they do with Kirk? He's going to
That's
have
what I
one
was
more
just
year
going to
left on
get
his
to.
deal.
Yeah.
That gets us to that whole part of after that was it the second game of the season, the Packer game. You're like, man, what do the Vikings do now? Because this is we've been through 18 games of this, and it's not looking like this is a good investment. But then fast forward 10 weeks later, and things are looking pretty dang good. So we'll see what happens in that situation.
Because that is always the thing you have to look at, regardless of what you're talking about, whether it's going and finding a new job or breaking up with your girlfriend. You have to ask yourself, what are my options if I get out of this current situation? And
Man, I would not have said that. I would not have looking to upgrade. Woo.
she knows I'm a comedian. She's cool with it. But that really is something that you have to consider, because I know most Vikings fans up until the last 5 or 6 weeks, they look at $28 million and a guy who's probably not going to want to take a pay cut, because that's not the way the NFL works. And you go, I don't know if I want to get in to Kirk Cousins for $28 million a year or more for another 2 or 3 years. But then you look around at the options and you go, maybe that is a good deal when you look at
Well,
what the other choices are around the league.
I will say this. I think after the season, the Vikings need to look at, do they want to draft somebody? Like, even if they want Kirk, obviously, for next year, which I would assume they would at this rate, and maybe do an extension with him. But, do they have an interest if the right player falls to them and they think they can, that player can be productive in this offense and be sort of the guy of the future and maybe even an upgrade, maybe somebody more athletic that actually fits the offense a little bit better, because of more athleticism. That is that player available, and will they be in those situations where they draft somebody, and even though they're happy with the quarterback situation, but why not start to get a guy ready for the future, even if you again had to sign add another year onto Kirk's contract or something like that, and have that guy sit for 2 years. I think there's going to be some interesting options, and either way, it's nice that Kirk is playing so well and making that contract, much easier to swallow.
You brought up Drew Brees and Teddy Bridgewater in that same situation a couple of times. And speaking of options there, do you see decline in Drew Brees? And do you think that if the Saints see decline in Drew Brees and they see the end is near for him, maybe another year or two of productive quarterback play out of Brees, that maybe they just start on the future and say it's been real, Drew Brees, and move on and keep Teddy Bridgewater as their starting quarterback? Or do you think that's maybe too much of a reach?
I gotta think that Drew and the team, it won't be one of those situations where if they decide they would like to move on, I think they'd all be honest with each other. I would assume that they'd be probably pretty fine with Drew coming back. I think he still plays at a good level, and a level where you can win championships. He's got all that experience. He just doesn't have that big arm. And as you get older, his arm's not getting stronger. Never had a strong arm in the first place. And so, if they can find someone that they think is better, if it's a Teddy Bridgewater, who I believe is a free agent after the year.
Yeah.
So I mean, they'd have to give up a big number to him. So I think they're just going to have an honest conversation. And I can see Drew, if he feels like this is it for him. I can see him being fine if that's what whatever's best for the team. He is a truly like whatever's best for the team. I feel like a type of player. So I guess we'll see. I haven't thought much about it too much, being that what I believe and what I saw a couple of years ago with the Minneapolis Miracle was that he has a really good pretty young football team. And I think I always thought that would probably motivate him to play, 2, 3, 4 years more, because this is a window that the Saints, probably in my opinion, the most athletic and talented Saints team that he's probably had since he's been there.
But you're not going to pay 2 starting quarterback salaries, right? So they're going to be faced
No.
with the decision of, do we want to keep Teddy Bridgewater or do we want to ride this out with Drew Brees at the end of the season? That's what they're facing at this point, right?
Yeah, they are facing that. And again, I haven't watched the Saints enough. And watched Brees enough after he obviously got hurt and missed that, whatever it was, a month or so. And so, but my guess is that they still think pretty highly of him as a quarterback. I know the first game he came back, he threw the ball like 45 times and for 3 touchdowns and a really nice win. So I think he's got some left in the tank. He stays in incredible shape. I don't think there's a quarterback out there who might be in better shape other than maybe Lamar Jackson or something, or Deshaun Watson, the way those guys run around. But Drew keeps himself in great shape for a guy who's 40 years old, and I think can play for a couple more years if he so chooses to.